We've got a lot of stuff to get through today. We're going to talk about smoking. We're going to talk about weight loss. We're going to talk about life coaching, because that seems to be what you've gone into now. You started off as an entertainer, but you're actually affecting people's lives now. We're going to talk about that and your responsibility towards the people who buy your books. We're also going to talk about your life and how you got started and where you go from here, because we've got a chance for listeners today to get involved in your next venture, which is a huge TV series which will be on at the end of the year. We'll give you details later on how you can be part of that program. Let's start at the beginning then. When did you become Paul McKenna the hypnotist? When did you become the man that wanted to have the power over the people?
Well, I used to do what you do. I was a local radio broadcaster and quite happy doing that. And I was interested in yoga and meditation. And one day I went to interview the local hypnotist, and I was feeling particularly stressed that day. I used to do yoga and meditation all the time, but I was having a right old stressful day. And I said to the guy, "Go on then, do your weirdy mind thing on me." And I was amazed at how relaxed I felt, and actually quite euphoric afterwards. I felt quite astounded by how good it was. So I borrowed some books from this guy and began hypnotizing my friends to help them lose weight and quit smoking. And it worked pretty much, each time. And then the inevitable thing would happen. I'd be at a party and everyone would say, "Oh, make Fred think he's a kangaroo, or a washing machine or something." And we'd all fall about laughing. And so it kind of took off from there. From there, I thought to myself, wow, hypnosis is a great party trick. It's very powerful for helping people improve their lives. But the way to demonstrate it to people is through the entertainment format. So I carried on doing the two jobs for a while. I was a radio broadcaster during the day and a hypnotist entertainer by night. But I suppose my main passion was the self-improvement side of it. And I eventually landed a television show. This will be back in the early 90s, about 10 years ago. And I would do this on television, go out at night and do shows. But during the day, I would do seminars, make tapes and CDs, that kind of thing, to help people. And I suppose my life has changed direction over the years, and I've been taken more in the direction of the self-improvement. Even though I've done that all the time, that's what people, I suppose, know me for better these days. Whereas 10 years ago, everyone said, "Oh, it's the man who makes a man think that a broom is his favorite supermodel and snog it." Whereas nowadays, people know me for the books.
Okay, let's get straight into it then. Let's talk about hypnotism, because I've got an honest question for you, and I'd appreciate an honest answer. Some people have said that practicing hypnotism is evil and it's black magic, because they believe if you can get a man to dance around a sweeping brush, believing it's Marilyn Monroe, you can get a man to go as far as even killing someone for you. Now, I want to clear this up. Do you believe, even to 1%, that would be possible, and that you could convince somebody to do something wrong, illegal, or even get somebody to do something that they didn't want to do because of their own beliefs?
Okay, well, it's a good question. There were a number of people about 10 years ago, when I was regularly doing entertainment shows on television, who claimed that they were down at the police station the next day looking for their invisible leprechaun, or that they thought the washing machine was sexually attractive, or some kind of mad stuff like this. And the government appointed a panel of very eminent psychologists and psychiatrists to look into these claims made by people. And I'm afraid to report back that they rubbished every single one of them. Not one of them, not even one of them, had any validity. Now, I've seen these stories repeated from time to time, but the truth is very simple. Hypnosis isn't not in the slightest bit dangerous, not one tiny little bit. Now, what you do have is that sometimes people who are vulnerable go to seek help from a therapist, and that therapist, he might be a doctor, might be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or might be a lay therapist, has abused them. And you'll read those kind of tales in the newspapers. But the idea which is suggested, which is somebody sits down and they say, "Look into my eyes, look into my eyes," and and then they take advantage of them, is just utter nonsense. The kind of thing you see in a movie. There's no validity to that, but it makes kind of interesting newspaper copy. But there isn't a single case of that taking place in any psychological literature anywhere in the world. And the overwhelming evidence, and there's been thousands, tens of thousands thousands of research studies done on hypnosis. The overwhelming evidence is that number one, it works for behavioral changes like quitting smoking, losing weight, becoming more confident. It's actually the best technique for many things. And it's completely 100% safe. Okay. So yes, vulnerable people get abused by awful abusive people. And sometimes, some of them have been doctors, some of them have been hypnotists, some of them have been policemen, some of them are accountants, but hypnosis in and of itself is in no way whatsoever dangerous. It's completely safe.
How do you explain it then? Because if I'm sat here now and you can make me dance around a sweeping brush believing that that's the most beautiful woman in the world, what is to stop you doing something that is morally wrong? I mean, how do you distinguish between the two? That's what I can't understand, because if you can make me do that, how can you not make me do something like kill someone at the worst extreme?
Great. All right. Good question again. Firstly, the people that are dancing around, taking part in the horseplay, they know that what they're doing, but it just feels like the most natural thing in the world to do. It's a bit like karaoke. You know that you're singing I Will Survive badly, but you have had a few drinks, you don't care. So what hypnosis does is it lowers inhibitions, but it doesn't take over somebody's mind to the point that they've got no control. I know it may seem that way, but it doesn't. Now, when I ask somebody to do something that's on the stage, they've got the choice. They can, if it totally goes against their morals or values, they'll say no. For example, I asked a gentleman, I've had this happen to me twice in all the years I've been doing it, asked an Indian gentleman, when you wake up and you hear this piece of music, you'll think you're Elvis. He was doing all the other things in the show, but suddenly the music starts, he goes, popped out of the trance, I can't do this. I said, why? He went, it's forbidden in my culture. I went, oh, okay, well, it's not in mine, but I respect your belief, sir, and then moved on to another routine. Now, the CIA did a number of experiments, and actually a number of other psychologists did in the 1950s to see if hypnosis could be a mind control weapon, because it would have been very useful. But they found conclusively that people won't commit what they call antisocial acts. That's the actual technical term for it. It means like going and killing someone. Just because they're hypnotized. Now, you can manipulate and coerce and brainwash people into doing things that are not in their best interests. And the people who do that on a regular basis are cults, politicians, salespeople, all get us to do things that are not in our best interest, but in theirs. For example, I remember reading a quote by Adolf Hitler. He said, it's the good fortune of governments that people don't think. And Goebbels, his right-hand man, said, most people don't want to go to war, but if you can motivate anyone to go to war if you tell them they're under attack. So those are the kind of misuses that I think that we find. When people say, well, that's not hypnosis, I consider politicians, cult leaders, salespeople, all of these people to be the everyday hypnotists. You could say that, teachers and parents are as well. We're conditioning our children, in many good ways. We're teaching them how to read and write, and the sort of the moral structure, and we're doing that through a process of conditioning. So conditioning, mind control, is not a bad thing as such, provided that it's used in benevolent ways. So where do we draw the line? Well, I think that's a personal issue, but I think equally we also all know what's right and what's wrong. And what I try and do, and I think the vast majority of hypnotists try and do, is always give suggestions that are in everybody's best interests. My suggestions are that people might want to change behaviors to help them live a bit longer, to have a more healthy life, to feel better in themselves. And also I do a show where I get people to lose their inhibitions and do, some stunts that are comedic, but never in an utterly humiliating way or anything like that. And if you look at, say, some of the morally reprehensible reality shows that are on now, hypnotism shows are quite tame compared to those.
Could you put me under now? Could I be hypnotized without wanting to be?
Well, not really. I mean, it is possible, yes, to hypnotize you without... I'm going to change that answer. I'm going to say it is possible to hypnotize you without you realizing. And by hypnosis, I mean focus on one idea to the exclusion of all others, right? To go into that lovely daydream, but to then get you to do things that are fundamentally against your morals and values, no. So yes, I can get you relaxed, get you focused, and I can also open your mind to other possibilities. So say you come to see me and you want to quit smoking or you want to lose weight. I have to help you change the way that you've coded the behaviors in your unconscious mind so that you can take on new behaviors, new perspectives. But, if I can just sit here and talk to you and say, when you wake up, you'll go and rob a bank, is that likely? No, that's not actually. But if I was a nasty, coercive, mind-shagging cult, then I could probably, through a process of wearing you down and, finding the emotional chinks in your armor, get you to think it was a good idea to give all your money to the cult leader and work 20 hours a day for the glory of the cult, and, convince you that the cult leader is in direct communication with God and all that sort of nonsense. So do you see the difference between the two? Hypnosis doesn't involve coercion. It involves relaxation, focusing on one idea to the exclusion of others, letting go of the normal mindsets that we hold, in our everyday thinking. And that can be done so that we can change a behavior, or it can be done so that we can let go of our sort of inhibitions and, take part in a bit of horseplay on the stage. The other kind of behavioral change that I was talking about, which is highly coercive, is the type that cults, high-pressure salespeople and politicians engage in.